of the basic questions that you've asked, like what is our fundamental purpose, may in fact not be immutable. In 10 years they may be different than they are now. But if there were discussions, really fundamental discussions, and in the beginning sometimes it can be driven by creating a partnership agreement in which there is a very clear discussion about the model of the business and about how people are going to be compensated and how decisions are going to be made. You can avoid some of the problems that they had. And in some cases, frankly, these problems are going to happen because there's pathology in the families. If you look at, now I've said that, classic example of pathology, and this is not a family that I've worked with. I certainly watched them from a distance. And they've been written about in books and magazines and newspapers endlessly. But the Bechtels, I mean, people shot each other, there was drug abuse, there was alcohol abuse, there was physical abuse. I mean, you go down the list. And Bechtel is one of the most successful construction and management companies in the world. So doing all of these things right that we're suggesting doesn't, or doing them all wrong, doesn't mean that you won't be successful and make, in some cases, billions of dollars. In the end, for us, it is the whole client system. It is the family business system and more largely the family enterprise. It is all members of the family feeling that we have a healthy relationship to the business and to each other. We have a healthy business and it is growing. We may be willing to sacrifice some growth and value creation. I think this is one of the differences between some of the businesses that we see that really have some serious pathology that are enormously successful. Some of the family businesses that we've seen that have been very successful have been successful a bit at the sacrifice of maxing growth and profitability. They're willing, in the interest of family harmony and the health of the family, to protect those relationships. But part of what you do, you'll see, it won't come as a surprise to you that down here it'll say superb governance at the end. Part of what you do is in family governance. You make sure that there's an inspiring mission, encouragement to follow individual dreams. There is an obsession about wanting to remain united and in harmony being important, but a willingness to allow people to be individuals and pursue their own interests. If they pursue their own interests, you want them to excel. But you also push them very hard to understand that if they choose to be an artist, a lawyer, a doctor, that they probably will not have the same kind of financial rewards. Maybe as a lawyer they might in the US. But they will not have the same kind of financial rewards that somebody working in the business is. And that the business can sweeten people's lives, particularly in succeeding generations, because businesses do not grow as fast as families. So ultimately, the pie is growing, but the family is growing faster. So the expectations of family members who are shareholders needs to be managed. These families focus on hard work. You excel at whatever you do. There's a relatively low priority for wealth, comfort, and status. That's not to mean that they don't enjoy their lives or live comfortably, but it's not their sole purpose. They favor consensus and encourage forgiveness. They have comfort with inequality, sacrifice, and conflict for the sake of the business. Inequality in the sense that not everybody is going to, in a family business system, a family enterprise, not everybody's going to be treated equally. There are some people who are working in the business who may have more control, depending on how your shareholders' agreement is set up. They may have larger salaries. They may have cars and drivers. They may have company homes that are slightly more elegant than somebody else's. But healthy business families have negotiated these things and understand that it's okay, because these are the people who are investing time, often 24/7, to protect the geese that are laying the golden eggs. They have pride in business and in the family's contribution to it, and engagement, partnership with the next generation, and superb governance. Now we're going to get on to what does governance mean. One of the things, there are some rules that we have in the Family and Business program at Harvard Business School. One is that families grow faster than businesses, so you need to constantly be thinking about how to manage expectations. And to do that, you need structure and process. And it's not just structure and process, it's also content are your friends. Heavy lifting makes the difference. There are, if I had a nickel or a rupee for every time I talk to a group like this in some parts of the world, or met a business family, they'll say, we need a family constitution. So, the worst mistake I ever made in my career was in Dubai, working with several other colleagues, and we were working with Arab and Muslim businessmen who said, we can't sit in a room and talk about what the family constitution should be. This was 15 years ago. You write it out for us. We did. They violated the family constitution 5 days after we finished it, and they signed it. Why would that happen? They didn't work on the family constitution. Increasingly, I talk about the importance of heavy lifting. If you're going to engage in family governance and you create a family council, that family council needs to canvass, poll the family, find out what the most important issues are. Do we need rules for family employment? Do we need rules for standards of behavior? Do we need to define our mission and our values and our vision? And then when you have that list, and for any of you who are interested, we can send you a laundry list of all of the policies we see in a family constitution. We can even send you examples of very good ones. But do not, if we send you 2 family constitutions that are beautifully written, assume that you can plug your name in and use that family constitution. The value is in learning how to talk about the issues that are important to you. First, the value is in identifying what the issues are that are critically important to your family and its future. And then saying, these are the things that we need to talk about. These are the things that we need to develop rules, policies, procedures, guidelines for. And we're going to spend the time and effort to do that. So, establishing government begins with the recognition that businesses come and go, that businesses and business families can last for generations and inevitably, ultimately outgrow their businesses. Industry life cycles change over time. Diversification and renewal are key to family business survival. Leadership and governance make strong great. So, governance structures. What we have seen make the good, great is the following types of governance structures. Starting with the family. Bringing the whole family together to educate them about the unique characteristics and challenges of family business. When we say family assembly, we mean a family retreat, bringing the whole family together, kids, adults, spouses. In some cultures, people get nervous about bringing spouses, and others they don't. The reason that we think it's valuable to include spouses in appropriate conversations about family business, and your family business in particular, is that they are raising the next generation. To the extent that they feel included, treated fairly, informed about things that are appropriate for them to know about, that they have a chance to participate in defining the family mission and the vision for the family and the family values, they are more likely to be nurturing the next generation in a way that is supportive of the business family and the family business. If they feel they're being treated as second-class citizens, if they feel they're held on the edges, and as we sometimes say, are treated as outlaws instead of in-laws, or as though they have no value other than producing the next bloodline in the family, we think you're potentially asking for trouble. There are roles that in-laws can play if they don't work in the family business, and we know from discussions that we've had earlier today that there are spouses that work in some of your family businesses, which is great. But the notion is that if you're involved in philanthropy and you're worried because somebody married into the family who comes from a business family that competes with your business, you might want to have them involved more in philanthropy than the family business, just for confidentiality and sensitivity issues. Anyway, family assembly would be the whole family gathering periodically to talk about these issues, to have fun, to get to know each other. Because if you are successful over 2-3 generations, you get to numbers that are in the hundreds in the blink of an eye. And that is a complicated size group to keep harmonious, united, and focused on the same goals and objectives. When we talk about family council, we are talking about a smaller group, often elected, sometimes appointed, that works on developing the family constitution, works with the family assembly, organizes the family assembly meetings, may do development programs for future shareholders to help them become more financially literate, to take them on field trips to explain the family businesses to them, and work with the next generation on education of them, getting them to be financially literate, also helping them be financially fit as children, understanding how to manage money, etc. We also believe that shareholder council can be very useful. In this case, we're talking about down here, it would be family members who are shareholders. But the notion would be that this shareholders council works on issues of shareholders related to the business, making sure that family shareholders are understanding what reasonable expectations are able to understand what is happening in the businesses, are financially literate, and are able to help identify potential members of the board of directors or advisory board and elect the board of directors, because the board of directors or advisory board would have a fiduciary responsibility to represent the shareholders' interests. Here, how many of you in your family businesses have a board of directors? A real board of directors? I think almost inevitably you have a board of directors, but it probably meets once a year, meets basically on paper. It is a small group of family members. They read the minutes from the last year's meeting in about 2.5 seconds. They sign off on what management wants to do, and that's it. We honestly believe that there is a value to moving in a more formal direction. And for the senior generation, this is often a real stumbling block. Because, first of all, it's family. We're not going to talk to anybody outside the family about what we're doing, how much we're worth, how much these businesses are worth, how they're doing. This is confidential information. We like to see family businesses come to terms with the need for more transparency and for getting outside independent advice. We believe that advisors, outside independent advisors, and you don't have to go to a board of directors. An advisory board is an informal group that would have less in the way of legal responsibility. It could be people that know something about your business, your industry. Ideally, it could be friends, but they should be friends that you know are going to be very objective. That they're not going to worry you about offending you by telling you the truth or saying you're wrong about this particular decision or the direction you're thinking about going. It needs more study. Ideally, what you want to do is look at the family members who are on the board. Not too frequently do we advise having operating executives who are non-family members on the board. They can be invited in to present and visit. In some cases, if you have a chief financial officer who's a non-family member who's fabulous, you might want to have them on the board. But you would look for, where do we have gaps in our skills and capabilities? If we are interested in marketing and geographic expansion, brand development, let's find somebody who has that experience and those skills. If we think we're strong in finance, but not quite as strong in finance as we want to be, find somebody who's brilliant in finance and who has a long executive track record. You may feel that you need somebody who's strong in operations for one reason or another, or somebody who's brilliant at mergers and acquisitions. That's the kind of analysis you should go through, looking at where are we strong and where do we have gaps in terms of our own skills and capabilities. How do we define what it is that our requirements are, and then build a pool of candidates from people that you know. Go to your lawyers, go to your accountants, say, who would you advise that could help us in these areas? And then test it out. If you have an advisory board, you don't have to keep them forever, and you want to have them have terms. Okay. So, and then obviously, you want to make sure that you have executive committee and perhaps an operations committee. How many of you have executive committee, operations committee? Okay, I've rest my case. There are two key points we want you to take away. First, there's no one size that fits all. Solutions for corporate, shareholder, and family governance can be different. They need to fit your situation. And if you have questions about what might work for you versus somebody else, you'll have through Raman my email address. Feel free to get in touch with us and just to ask, and we'll give you advice over the internet. And then finally, and I think this is the most critical piece of this, cross-generational partnering and joint heavy lifting are essential for success. For those of you who are younger, you need to manage up. You need to engage the senior generation and explain to them that you want to be successful, that there needs to be a timetable for succession, that you need to know how they're measuring how you're doing, that you need to know what they're thinking about succession. And you need to encourage them to think about being coaches and mentors. Ultimately, what is going to define their success is not how brilliant they've been with the existing business. It's going to be whether that business lasts for multiple generations and you're successful. Their past success is not something that their obituary is going to be written about. If they fail to work with you, to partner with you, to make you successful, their obituaries are going to talk about family businesses that have underperformed or plateaued. You all want to be successful. Certainly in the abstract, they want you to be successful, but they need to learn how to do that. And a lot of that has to do with your either getting good advisors to help create the dialogue across the generations, or you're being more assertive about managing your work. So, thank you for your patience. Any questions?
Supplementary to a point raised by my friend here about Ambani family, I think it should have been Dr. Oja, and had it been a family affair, it would have been sorted out differently. Because of the professionals, because I have also studied that that case in greater detail. The professionals, I think, made it complicated. I'm putting that with all my respects to the professionals here. I am too HR professional. Had it been only a family affair to be sorted out by respected Dr. Oja, Mukesh, Anil and Shrimati Kokila Bahan, it would have been sorted out the other way. So that was my one. Secondly, second point, I have been with the company, I had seen 3 generations, the grandfather, the son and the grandson now. There's a lot of difference between all the 3 functionaries. A grandfather I dealt with only about 6 months, the sons about for 2.5 years, and the grandsons again for around for 1.5 years. Thinking is totally different. But I'm glad to see that group developing from 40 lakhs to now 150 crores. They are into real estate, they are into education, they are in hospitality. It's an India-based company, and they are having the best advisors from one of the top institutions from the world. So I thought let me share with this before. Thanks for listening to me.
And the issue in that case, it sounds as though their thinking may be different, but they're talking to each other. And ultimately decisions are made by consensus. The role of non-family executives can sometimes get extremely, extremely complicated. How many of you know Bertelsmann? Bertelsmann is a major media company based in Germany, multi-billion dollars. And that's a situation where non-family executives, particularly CEO, had gained enormous power, became very complicated for the family to deal with. And I think one of the dilemmas is that if you are determined that in your family business, the root, and many family businesses believe this, particularly if you move from this part of the world further east to Asia, believe that having professional, quote unquote, which is a term I hate using for non-family executives because family members can be equally professional. If you make a decision to move towards non-family professional executives, but you don't know how to partner with them and have them partner with you, it can be real trouble. Other questions?
They've understood it all and they have a lot to take away, I guess.
Thank you all. You were very patient.
The question is there that you have said one point there that the older generations are much more risk takers, and even the new generations are not more risk takers. So can you give the light regarding this point?
Can you repeat that?
Even the older generations are more risk takers, and the new generations are less risk takers. So can you give the light regarding this point?
Yeah, I qualify what I said a bit. What I tried to make clear when I was on that slide is that when you have more family members who are non-active in the business and are shareholders, they don't understand the risks. So if you talk about a big risk, they have no way of judging it. And they've got to balance it against their financial needs. In the case of the paper, pulp, and packaging, Forest Products, paper, pulp, and packaging company that I talked about, the non-active shareholders in that company, part of the reason that the board of directors borrowed money from the bank was they wanted to give them level dividends even though they were losing money. Because these people had come to, they used that money